Hang on, I've got something coming up. Nah. Doesn't want to come up.
All right, it's starting recording.
Okay, well, we've got the complex planetary synchronization structure of the solar system, NSCA theta, from the Active Cavity Radiometer Irradiance Monitor Laboratory, ACRIM, in Coronado, California, and Duke University. Anyway, basically, the abstract talks about the complex planetary synchronization structure of the solar system, and he's taught, and this has been recognized since Pythagoras and Copernicus with the music of the spheres, and then Kepler, of course, extended the knowledge of the elliptical rotations of the planets, and they established something called the Titius Bode rule in 1766 to 1772, which successfully predicted the Ceres and Uranus, and an 11-year-old sunspot cycle was discovered in 1859 by Wolf, and basically they're looking at all these planetary oscillations and in terms of the simple resonant frequencies of the planets, and they posit that the solar system also oscillates with a specific set of gravitational frequencies, and many of them within the range 3 years to 100 years, and they can be approximately constructed as harmonics of a base period of 178.38 years. So we have these. So that's the base beat, basically, that we decide to measure the planet's planetary orbits, and we find some quite amazing synchronicities, and just to illustrate, this is the Earth Venus astronomical units along the bottom and the side. The sun's obviously. And it's when we get these conjunctions. Here we've got 2014, and then the next one. It actually describes a pentagram over an 8-year period. It's a 13-to-8 resonant frequency. And another feature of this is we only ever get to see one face of Venus because of the actual planetary rotation of Venus. So every here we are, 2014, 17. Oh, so this is at 2020. And this is at 2012, over an 8-year period, and we're still looking at the same. Everywhere we look, we can get a close. Venus gets in front of the sun, or lines up with the sun. We only ever get to see the same face of Venus. Now, what this says to me is that there's been this is proof of interaction between Earth and Venus, a previous interaction. And we have the same synchronicities set up in other planets, which basically it goes into some of the history of this. Explains the Titius Bode rule. Oh yeah. And then he describes this asteroid belt mirror symmetry rule, which is quite interesting. and this is how it's expressed with these simple equations that well, you'll have to look through these because it's well, basically, if we take the rotation of Mercury, times it by Neptune, and divide it by Earth and Saturn, it's the same as Venus times Uranus and Mercury times Neptune. So anyway, this is an interesting rule, and it also predicts the planetary distances pretty well. Oh yeah, Malkinov then takes this a little further and produces this little matrix, which exactly shows. So this is Earth here, and so we're actively involved with Venus and Mercury on one rotation, and we're involved with Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus on another, and we're involved. We correspond with Venus, Earth, Venus, Earth, Jupiter on another, and so we get these lists of combinations of these planetary conjunctions which occur in our solar system, and we can so then we can calculate these orbital periods, and this is how they fall out with quite a good accuracy. But he mentions, if I can find this bit, oh, here we are. Now, when we have these conjunctions of Saturn and Jupiter, it actually pulls the sun from its standard position, and it rags it around at these points.
No.
An 11-year-old period, an 11-year-old cycle, and this is when we get the solar flaring.
Yeah.
When the stress is formed.
That's a simple answer, isn't it? Now.
Yes, it is. Now the whole point of this document is it's a really good and wide-ranging view of it. But
yeah,
he's
let
not.
me copy that if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. And he's not, but he's not aware of the electrical. He knows that gravity can't explain these phenomena, but he's not aware of the sun. He thinks there's a neutron. Sorry, he thinks there's a fusion reaction going on in the center of the sun. So he's slightly off course with that. And I would like, but anyway, what it comes down to is that we have all these. We can, when we plot all these synchronicities, and we can plot them against historical data, and they fit very well. And so we can also plot these forward in time, and so it's a half empirical data system that we can actually use with these synchronicities to predict the variations in the field that we can measure, and also the perturbations in the planetary rotations, and what electrical effects we can observe with these in the irradiance of the if we can determine what in the magnetic field, what changes occur in the planetary magnetic fields. So he talks a lot about the sun's Tachoc line, which I don't understand what. I'll have to look at what that is. I've got a PDF document. If you'd like me to post that somewhere, shall I put it on through Discord or something like that?
Well, I mean, just put it in the Skype chat there, and it may end up on the gateway here, or we'll see.
No, sorry, Ramon. I've downloaded the document off a ResearchNet site.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I've just got the PDF on my locally on my computer.
Yeah, just attach it in the chat.
All right, I'll try and find the link to the research. Yeah, okay. And anyway, so we get these correlations that work out quite dandy.
In the bottom of the chat, there's a little paper with a little picture thing, and it says add files. You can just attach to the chat directly.
Okay.
That's how we're doing that.
Okay, I'll try that. I'll do that in a minute.
So what was your takeaway from the paper?
My takeaway is that not only do we get these resonances that we can detect at very regular intervals and predict, it ties very closely in with the weather. Here we have they've identified, using this system, this very long sinusoidal wave that goes back about 1,000 years, and he basically then says that this is us now. The solar activity is going to dip anytime 2030.
We're the green line.
Yeah, the green. That's the harmonic. And then they're using the 900. They found that a 980 year harmonic and a 2060 year harmonic with solar activity.
This is from magnetic data.
You'll have to look through. I've only read it once, so you'll have to.
All right. So when the red lines dip below the green line, what happens?
I think. Well, that's the Maunder. That's the Maunder cycle, 1680 odd.
And there's the Dalton.
When basically the sun went to sleep.
Gotcha.
And then it predicts the Dalton cycle. I'm not sure what 1820 odd. When Napoleon decided to invade Russia. Crazy time to do it. And then, of course, this global rise is going to continue.
Well, it may suggest why people are going crazy. That maybe one of the, maybe people start seeking. I reckon that a lot of people's emotions and thoughts are etherically guided, and may account for the sensation people have of heaven's will. That's a very old belief, not new. And yes. It may be that people really did feel the effects of Mars and went off to war, and the effects
still do.
And still do, yeah. But more directly when it was nearby. And so in this case, it may very well be that people, when the solar electrical activity dips really strongly, then they start getting a subconscious response, or even unconscious response in the body's nervous system, telling them that they need to go invade something, take something, store up something, secure. I know that I personally have been observing my own psychology change over the last year and a half to become not quite obsessed, but in that direction with security and safety and finding ways to protect the children. I have bought up when it arrives. I'll have 6,000 calories a day for 3 months. That'll give the children 1,500 calories a day for 3 months, which of course is not enough to survive the length of time that we're talking about. but it would give me an advantage in terms of getting out in the woods and getting any kind of remnant. We have plenty of hogs here and deer, etc. But in case something were to happen, give them a leg up. Now, I was also securing the physical location of the house. Of course, I just sold it, so that went down the tubes. But I had security film on there and all this stuff, and it wasn't just the politics. There was a sense inside of me that I needed to protect my family all the more, and it may be that this electrical activity is the answer. I know we were going to try and find that. I just still have not found the satellite source, the data where you could see the spinning from the north side of the sun and see those veins spinning. But it'd be really great to find that.
I'll be able to get hold of that. I will be able to get hold of that.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right? It flows and it flows in like a wave around the sun from the North Pole. I need to get it and then start correlating it with. I need somebody to work with who they track that in one spreadsheet, and then in another spreadsheet I track what type of day it is, what the compression is, what are the effects that I'm sensing, and then we overlay them and see, if there's some possibility that. And we got to keep track of each vein as it goes around, label them somehow so that we know when it comes back around and see if there's a rotation, because in the Chinese sciences, there definitely is a rotation. It's 60
I'm pretty sure there is as well. And this is all part of the system, and it's all part of this, the planetary circuit.
What's that happen? What's that? Go back up to that green line.
Right. Well, these are predictions. These are the predictions that we're currently following, and they're completely way off. Like, this is the one to say that we're all, with what planetary warming prediction that's gone completely skew.
Oh well, that's all going to be a priori nonsense. But so the green is a temperature.
This is the IPCC CMIP
that's
ensemble average projection.
Yeah, it's amazing that they even can look themselves straight, in the mirror. For the audience who's wondering why I say that, you can look to the left there and you see what typical kind of behavior that we expect out of a natural system. Spikes and valleys in an oscillating sinusoid that is modulated by whatever other systems are involved. So, for example, the sun, the Earth's magnetosphere, the relative location versus other planets. There's all sorts of things that could be modulating these spikes and valleys, but then they should be oscillating. And then look at that. I mean, talk about agenda.
Well, yeah. So then this is the red line. This red line is the solar astronomical model and volcano anthropogenic model. Following
anthropogenic. So what are they suggesting that we're going to create the volcanism? What are they saying when they say volcano anthropogenic?
Well, I'm going to have to let you. I've only read it once, like I say, and it's so anyway. His own models. These are the solar astronomical harmonic model down here in the blue, and it's not. It's slightly less than the observed by the look of it. But anyway. Not only do we as he established these rotations. I would like to correlate again with this wave coming, the solar wave that comes around. This Dr. Schlock, I think it's Schlock or Schmock or something, who I was looking at a few months ago. Gareth on the patterns has mentioned his work. And I feel that they will completely line up with his observations, and these correlate to changes in chemical reaction times, chemical reaction temperatures, nuclear decay rates of carbon-14 significantly changed at these periods of stress. And so it's something we can actually experiment on and predict again, using this Dr. Schnoll. And, you know, like you say, getting these live data together, comparing back in the past, even through a neural network, putting it all in a neural network, comparing it back as far as we've got good data for, and then projecting it forward. Comparing it with actual real data, so we can learn the model properly, and then we've got a fantastic predictor.
So I believe that is the key to going forward. One thing I can praise about Ben Davidson is that he pulls from a lot of different sources, but the thing that I would be suspect in is, you know, how much he trusts a lot of the data. I'm not sure that he spends enough time looking through to see if what he's looking at makes much sense, to be honest with you. But it is important for us to use data. If we don't use data, then, you know, we have a lot of personal feeling about. And this paper is an excellent example. This looks like a fantastic paper, to be honest with you.
It is, yeah. No, him and his colleagues have done. They've done other work regarding this. The only thing they're missing is electrical understanding, an understanding of electrics, plasma, etc. Because this will fit perfectly into the electric universe model, perfectly, and with a lot of observable data. And we can see from these interactions, these resonant interactions, how the planets are actually interacting, and be able to predict on a micro level. I mean, for example, the day of Venus is 5,800 of Earth days retrograde. It's going to actually, at some point, you would think it's almost going to stop, and it stops spinning, but something is giving it that impetus, and it's probably Earth. For that rotation. So there's a long way we can go with this, using these predictive systems, and is there anything else I can mention while we're here?
I appreciate you digging into that, because you know, we have there's just not enough time that's been, you know, spent on this subject. And I mean, again, have to give credit where credit's due. It is something that Ben spends quite a bit of time harping about. However, I reckon that he has bent himself in a certain direction that is going to not prove out the way exactly that he's thinking, but I still think he's probably ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's still no cause to go acting like a jerk, but it's, you know, one thing at a time, I guess.
Yeah. So basically, he identified these frequencies: 9.1, 10.4, 20, 60, 115, and 983 years. There are other ones that we can look at, like the great year. We can throw that in the mix, because that's another 250,000 year rotation. We can actually, if we do observe that Venus is slowing, or we should be able to observe changes in the orbital rotation at predicted times, and maybe a little bit of fireworks on some planets occasionally. Get a good model for how this plasma is actually.
There's been some stuff about Io lately, that's for sure.
Well, that's another very interesting system, because you've got the 421 synchronicity, which I was part of, It's a very interesting. I mean, it sounds like a rock beat. The actual, when you hear it in musical form, and that's another point, because these are harmonic forms. They correspond to musical frequencies, and it's like you were mentioning earlier, Iman, when you said you felt sort of different sort of emotional responses to different sort of possible planetary effects.
Right.
Just like music, different musical notes will give you a different emotional response. And I wonder that if we do have a look at the harmonics in terms of music, that we may be able to detect a sort of an emotional connection to these frequencies as well in terms of music, because emotion is transmitted through music, which is resonant beats.
Right. Well, it certainly is a way to modulate people's feelings and get them even thinking similarly. Possible to create I'd say anybody who's ever listened to the Grateful Dead is to create an atavistic experience.
Yeah. So, as I say, I'll have to. This is Mr. Scarfetta.
Very cool, man. Very cool. What else we got?
Oh yeah.
Aside from my hilarious kid in the background.
Right. Well, I just had a look at some of these resonances in terms of music, and this is the Venus resonance. If I can find it in a moment. So there are a number of songs that pop up with an 8 to 13 beat that are quite interesting, depending on your musical taste.
What beat?
This is the 9 Inch Nails. Because I'll put it on for a moment just to hear the 8/13 beat.
Yeah. Don't get us a copyright struck, but just a little sample will probably be all right.
Yeah, it's Bing anyway. So
I mean, they may cut out the algorithm may cut it out, to be honest with you, but. No, I'm not hearing it.
Oh, you're not hearing it, no?
No, I don't hear it.
Oh, what a shame. Oh well. Well, anyway, that was one example.
What kind of if people go and look, what kind of beat are they seeing?
Well, this is an 8 to 13 beat, musical beat.
Gotcha.
And it's we sometimes use these complicated beats in jazz music. We normally kind of discordant, resonant harmonics, and some real interesting structures come out. There's another band called Egg, which is about 1970. They were doing music with an 8/13 beat, and so on King Crimson, of course, a song Discipline of theirs. That's an 8/13. So there's a number of ways that you can use these, look at these, analyze these resonances, and looks like I've got myself a new hobby. But I think it's also something that we can do using live data from the. I've got a system where I can get the live data straight into in my programs, and so I can start really using this data as maybe start building a neural network up. which of course then we can once it's trained, it can respond to predictions. Give decent predictions of various types. Let's find out what these correspondents are, according to this Mr. Schlock. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll write get all my plans together, the stuff I need to look at and correlate, and then get on with something I can start building. Of course, there are a few astrological sites, websites that you can go on and just like what is it, ticker tape. You can get their live data down sometimes. So quite with a bit of decent programming, really start to build a good neural network. I think it's a very worthwhile activity for the future.
Absolutely. The difficulty will be putting all of these different types of harmonics in. You mentioned, what was that, 173-year harmonic? Is that what you said?
Well, it lists out a number of them.
And then you have your 11-year cycle, and I reckon that it's quite possible that as the solar system rearranged to maintain angular momentum, some of the rotation rates probably changed. So it makes it questionable as to how we'll be able to do it. Maybe the mathematics may be much more complicated than a video game simulator can do, is my point. At this stage of humankind's computing level, when we have enough computers doing the blockchain, and then we assign the blockchain to do proof of work that is involved in important mathematics, and it's sort of acting like the old SETI experiment, where can you make less noise, please? Thank you. To where we're distributing the computing throughout all of the people on the blockchain. The blockchain can ensure the data integrity, and the distributed computing can act as a relative type of supercomputer, and then we can start actually finding, doing the calculations for. I mean, you think about the analog circuit here, how many bodies, and we're interacting, and just even having the field equations, like the electric field equations, without even talking about the amount of electricity that's actually flowing, which is the relative changes as Io goes around Jupiter, for example.
It's perfect for a neural network. Perfect stuff for a neural network.
Yeah. And again, we're headed in the direction of having the computing power. I just don't think that we have it right now to where it can do that and do the graphic simulations for most consoles. I mean, not everybody can play a video game on a regular supercomputer, Now, Aaron is building out a cluster supercomputer. It may be possible in the future for us to build out supercomputers that are for sale for a reasonable amount of money, because we're building a crypto mining company.
Yeah.
And so if we take that crypto mining company and we build out a supercomputing rig that also doubles and it makes money back for the person using the blockchain, then they can join our projects and actually, they could help to do the mathematic work and make money off the blockchain in their house to cover the electricity expenses. Now that'd be a game changer. Talk about decentralizing and taking away the power from the academia. Hey, I have a quick question. Am I having a memory hole issue here, or is it just me, or did they change? Didn't they change the value of the K constant in recent years? Didn't they say it was off by some amount and they adjusted it? Am I having a memory hole issue, or is even the search engine's having it? the K curvature. I mean, I feel like that happened, and I don't know. I'm having a hard time finding anything about the changing of the K curvature.
What's the K curvature?
It has to do with general relativity.
Right. No, I can't help you with that one.
No, I feel like, okay, so nobody has this memory of the K value being adjusted.
Not many.
Okay, I mean, you know, I must be just having a memory hole issue, or you know, invented that in my own head. I don't know. I just no. I mean, if anybody comes across anything like that, let me know. Until then, I guess I'll eliminate that, or I'll leave it unlinked in the gravitation page. But I swear to God that it came from. Anyways, okay. All right. What's next?
Yeah.
Anybody...
So.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh. No. I'm just in the middle of making a brew here, so I might get a bit noisy, Ramon, for a minute. I'm just making some coffee, mate. It's all right. Yeah. So there's a. Oh yeah, I've got to put that. I'll find the link for that for this article anyway, because this Scarfetta and him and his colleagues have done some other pretty relevant work. Now I couldn't download any the paper out of ResearchGate because I'm not part of an institution, but you probably would be able to, Ramon.
Well, I don't have a lot of institutional access, but I can if we have a list of papers. Me and the kids can always spend like a half a morning. I can go down to the University of Kentucky and I can log on there and I can get that done and search. And often I can get about 90% of whatever people are looking for, if not more.
Right. Yeah, great. Yeah. So, well, that's something to keep me pretty busy. And getting back to the data mining. That's why there are no GPUs about at the moment, because the price of them has kind of doubled in NVIDIA GPUs because of the data mining that
right.
Everyone's using them for data mining.
Which is interesting, right? Because it flows in line with the MIMSical thing. You know, the MIMS stuff came up this morning when someone made a comment on one of the videos I declassified there. I was just being flippant when I didn't really choose them based on any kind of thing. I saw them and I said, okay, that can go public. That can go public. And she made the comment that, well, imagine the world without money. And so I was talking about the positives and the negatives of that. And then I got on and did my financial velocity update, and I found some more potential evidence for data ley lines connecting different tranches of data. The problem, of course, is my mind is also the potential link between them. But given I wasn't specifically, thinking, oh, I need to transfer money from this type of account to this type of thing. And one of them, when you talk about the crypto markets, I mean, it's totally out of my control, right? So I'm finding an interesting correlation. Now, it would go in our favor, actually, to prove a psychological connection, because in the MIMS theory, we want to have a connection between the numbers power and the Lord or the consciousness. So I'd like to maybe explore some MIMS concepts. The next major paper that I'll be doing is the threefold sciences, the sacred, secret, and supreme sciences. I'm going to have a number of little papers. We talked about the asymmetry. I reckon I'll probably do that. I need to print out, images of the M87 and find the relative center, and then measure the shape. It could be that it's elliptical, but my intention is to show that it is asymmetric. But in terms of large papers, I think the next thing is going to be in the MIMS region again. And I'd like to get people's personal thoughts on, if you don't want to talk about your faith, but just in general, like, how do you feel about ether or spirit, and how that affects, your fortunes, your lucks, anything like that in that direction is a topic that's interesting me today. Anybody have any thoughts?
Well, I've been. I certainly think. I firmly believe in these cycles. I think people, you can feel them in your bones. Of course.
Like where things are going your way and then they're not going your way? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's not necessarily my way or not. I mean, it's sort of been detecting the energy of the environment, really. The world's way. Feeling like that kind of flow.
So you're predisposed to think that if the stock market goes into a bear swing, everybody's reacting to one of these cycles that we've been discussing, these changes in an electromagnetic or gravity field or something like that.
Exactly, and as well, we can identify those with these resonances, as that Dr. Schlocker said. It actually corresponds to you. It correlates quite accurately with the stock market ups and downs, and these are predictable now.
And what is it that you think causes this interaction? Do you think it's the charges inside of the people's nervous system, or do you have a different theory? Do you think that it's spiritual? Do you think that there's an ether that is rising and falling, like almost like the sea, like a tide coming and going of ether?
I think it's something like that, and these waves are kind of additive as well. So you can get sort of, you get the plus, the minus, you get the troughs in energy, very smooth transition, variable frequencies of this happening. And I think, it corresponds totally to living systems and probably complex, any kind of complex system. Like I said, it corresponds to chemical reactions, fusion rates, in nuclear decay rates. Every time itself is probably stretched, due to these tensions, and they're. I'm sure we feel them. I'm sure animals feel them. I'm sure we do. Now, this corresponds to many of the tenets of astrology, of course.
Of what? Tenets of what? Astrology. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Now let's talk about that, because what was that effect that gentleman brought up? Wheelberger. He brought up. Gosh, what was the name of that effect? So I think it started with an M.
The what effect?
No. I mean, he has his Wheelberger wattage index, but I'm talking about he had an effect that he was talking about that seemed to demonstrate astrological behavior.
I think is that the Schlock effect?
That might be. Yeah, the slack. Slack effect. That's it. Yeah.
Schlock.
Yeah. Why don't you pull that up for me? You're already sharing the screen. Why don't you pull that up and show people what we're talking about here? Because I reckon it does relate to the MIMS in a kind of offbeat way. Like you have, so the person has something on their mind, something in their heart, something that they want, and then there's that's material, and they're wanting to make it happen. But then sometimes when they go to start to make it happen, they're unable to cross certain barriers. And the Chinese were interested in this issue from both a feng shui or geomantic perspective of, is there some kind of field, or are you hampered by the things around you? The Buddhists were interested in, is it and this is just like the Christians, they were interested in, is it something you're carrying within you that is blocking you? Which would go back to the psychology. Or could there be this effect that is connecting different levels of planets and stuff, and that you are born under so-called unlucky stars, and that your timing, the rhythm that you're living, you're sort of in a resonant behavior of misfortune. So, because I have patients come in, invariably they're always female, and they may be very pretty and they still have nothing but bad luck, and it just hasn't worked out for them, and they don't know why. I mean, because socially, the theory goes, of course, socially, that if they have a pretty face, then the doors will be opened. However, some of them have not found that to be the case in their life. Now, medically, what I see, what I feel when I'm in the room with them, is I feel bad for them, and I feel that they are out of sync, that they're out of a flow. They're not capable of flowing within their life, and so then everything that they do, it just turns in a bad direction. Now, here's an interesting thing. I knew a person like this who went to acupuncture with me. In fact, her brother was murdered in Ecuador, and she just had just terrible luck. Then, as she practiced, and it's well known that just giving acupuncture actually increases your neuroplasticity. Not well known, but it's known. It's in the literature. It's in the NIH material. And she started, I guess, probably like 5 years into practicing, her life made a shift. Her skin started to clear up, and she met the man of her dreams, and he's a very handsome feller, and now she's a mother. And it's sort of like, why did that take off for her suddenly later in life? Is that a matter of charge? Did she attract more ether, or is it just the rearrangement of the neurons? Did she adjust her rhythm, and now her sense of timing is matching with that of the earth? These are questions that no one's really answered before. Are you going to pull up that Schnoll effect there? You got? Is either of you going to get that?
Sorry, I just missed that. I just missed the last second of your.
Yeah. Are you?
No,
are you
I was listening. I was listening, Ramon.
Okay.
I was listening to what you were saying.
No, I've got most of it.
If someone could pull up that Schnoll effect, or however it's spelled.
I'll try and get that now. I'm back up. I'm just sorting myself out here. Yeah, sorry, I've just been.
It's okay.
Give my dog some biscuits and stuff. Right, let's have a look.
I love this. They are playing, while you're doing that, they're playing mental games on us here. So dark matter is now capable of pushing, and dark energy may now be pulling. I mean, just think of that. I mean, this is some Orwellian stuff.
Who sent you that?
It really is. It really is. Some of the stuff that they're coming out with now.
I'm not getting the share screen, so I'm only.
No, I see it. I see it. I think the audience should be able to see it.
Right, I've got.
I'm sure it is.
I did have the papers up for Schlock. I had some papers up, but that was on a previous computer, I think. Effects today we will be doing a shock if wave. Oh, no. It's nothing to do with it.
You'll have to type in. You know, if you in the I'll teach you something. If you go to the search bar where you typed, and add at the end of the search term, add dash shock. So put a space. Well, after put a space.
Okay,
I mean, between the effect and the dash, put a space and then write the word shock. Dash shock.
I see.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Then
With the
put
dash in it.
space. Put space.
Sorry.
Just push a space bar, and then dash shock.
Like that.
Yep. And what that'll do is it'll actually remove all the search results that have to do with shock.
Okay.
Because it's trying to to correct your. You may need to add a C in the schlock, where maybe.
That could be it. Sorry, yeah.
Could be. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember the name of the effect.
I remember it as such.
And you may have to put in there astrology and see if that enhances the search result.
Well, he's a Russian academic. Well, he was. He's a US naturalized now. Is it Schlock or Schmock?
I don't remember. You know, it's again one of those obscure things that I haven't gotten a chance to study. People always ask me, like, "Oh, have you done this?" It's like, well, it's not so easy to write the number of papers that I write in the first place. I had 2 coming in my brain the other day, and I wasn't near a piece of paper to write it down. You know, and so you might have to put in a minus Sherlock here to get rid of whatever this audiobook is.
Yeah, it's just a lot of crap, isn't it? It's
yeah. And so this is a good tool to have to be able to put the minus on there and remove. Here,
try with Brave.
I'll do a search too. Let's see here. Science. Let's see what comes up here. Schlock value. Schlockvalue.com.
No. Sleep. Right, I'll have to look through see the patterns vids because he's done videos of them of this guy. So I'll just have a look to see the pattern. Track something down, hopefully.
Well, maybe you can explain to the audience because we spent a few minutes on it. We might as well, how do we summarize what the effect was? I think it had to do with the resonances of orbital periods and some kind of connection.
Well, what it is, this Mr. Professor Schlock, he was a doctor. He was a doctor, and he did thousands and thousands of experiments. I think he was looking at ATP, but he did thousands and thousands of experiments, and then found out this that a bell curve would explain the distribution of the results of times taken to do these experiments. But on closer inspection, sometimes what he thought was one curve that expressed the maximum, there were actually two mountains on the curve that expressed this phenomena better. So we weren't getting a bell curve; we were getting a more complicated results path, and then he noticed that these seem to occur at the same time. He found correspondences in doing these different experiments at different times, and then just about in every area that he looked at, in every area of biology and chemistry that he looked at, the values were skewing along with this particular. What he eventually found was it corresponded exactly with the correspondence of Jupiter and Saturn. When there's a conjunction of those, the combined gravitational effect pulls the sun towards them, or not just gravitational. That wouldn't work. It'd have to be electromagnetic effect. Pulls the sun towards it and creates so much stress that the sun kicks out sunspots, and it's quite a regular feature that he noticed, and this will correspond just about exactly with the music of the spheres, as far as I'm concerned, just about. So when I can find, is it Dr. Schliemann Schlock? Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to look through Gareth's. I'll have to look through Gareth's stuff.
You're talking about see the pattern?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he do a special video on it?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
That's what put me onto this effect.
Yeah.
But it corresponds exactly with the resonant frequencies of these planets, and so we should be able to do, if we can find some simple radioactive breakdown experiment, we should see some variability at prescribed times, or growing crystals, or there should be certainly gravitational changes. Let's have a look at see the pattern. And maybe Gareth would be good to talk about this too as well.
Well, yeah, probably. We'd have to pull him on to get that done. He said he's trying to get prepared for the holidays here by getting ahead and recording everything ahead so he could set everything on, Premiere. Oh my, yes. Dark energy may not be pushing, but pulling the universe apart. Boy, what a mind screw that they are pulling on the public. It's really just a tragedy that anyone listens to these.
Oh, we've got farting black holes, burping black holes now as well. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, well, because everything comes out of the daggone suckers rather than getting sucked in. I think I heard Santa Claus was coming out of it the other day.
That's it.
You know what amazes me about all that, Ramon? It's all this that it has to be tearing apart or something like that, instead of, as we've talked about before, it's virtually biological, like the same as us, and it sort of dies and rebirths, and then they call black matter or black holes and all that. Well, it's going back to, like they bagged Velikovsky in that years ago when he talked about the things in the past, and here they are now predicting what they were bagging. But they got this idea that it's always got to be destroying itself, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, and it's a sort of a negative. It's just that same catastrophic effect. I watched Robert Ashcroft's suggested video, the when the earth cracks or crack in the world. And then I watched one that was clearly inspired by Velikovsky. It was called When Worlds Collide. And this stuff was made in the 1950s. And then I thought about it. And, you know, there was an incredible outpouring of into the world material that came out after the nuclear bomb was invented. Now, there were, you know, War of the Worlds kind of stuff before. Of course, the famous one, War of the Worlds, which caused a massive panic because of the way it was broadcast. However, there was a massive outpouring of negative science fiction between, you know, the end of the Second War and let's say probably like 1965 or 68, somewhere, you know, after we had, you know, started actually getting out into space and going to the moon. And then we had more of a positive association with everything. We had a Star Trek future kind of situation. It was still war, all of it's war the whole time, which is definitely saying something about our approaching the world ever since the age of Aries. Maybe even before that, right? And maybe ever since the age of Jupiter, the Taurus. But we have definitely some kind of psychological program going, some kind of bent on self-destruction, and you know, we've long ago identified. Of course, the Buddha did not actually say that what you think about you become, but the point was made in one of the sutras that is essentially that is what he's saying, and we have not come to grips with that. The most successful people out there, they know this. Many of them just invent a fantasy in their head about how successful they are and how you know they're the best and all this stuff, and they convince themselves, and then they become highly successful. And this goes right back to the MEMS discussion. What is it that is actually mediating the success? Is it that their willpower carries them, or is there some kind of combination of their hormonal and psychological waves matching with the timing to where there's an expansion suddenly of successful behavior? There have been numerous people who became very wealthy that had been homeless. And they talked about, you know, I always knew I would be a success, and I never stopped believing in myself. To which I would say bullcrap. Of course, if you're homeless and you're sleeping on park benches, you're sitting there thinking, you know, you're thinking about how poor you are at whatever you do. But if there's some inner compass there, but the question is, what changed between when they were in the park bench and when they own, you know, 100 franchises and they're the top chef, etc. What is it that changed? Now, religion has always said that, well, you know, your angels or your star came in, or you stopped your period of in Chinese astrology, which changed after the solar system. They came up with a time-based system called Bazi. And in Bazi, you have the interaction. It has to do with your birth date, and there's like if you're male and you're born this odd year, it goes this way, and if you're an even year, it goes this way, and then if you're female, it's exactly opposite. And then they ascribe like the interaction of certain characters to clash with each other. Okay, and when they clash with each other, then you create a negative condition inside the astrological chart, which is, like I say, it's called Bazi's 8 characters. And most people they only know the one, oh, I was born near the boar or something like that, right? But it's actually the interaction of your hour, which is actually a 2-hour, your 2-hour master with your day master and then your year, and then you have these pillars of decades. And it's thought that some of these decades are going to be poor decades for you, and it's just going to depend on when you were born as to did that decade start with your birth and how long did it last. And of course, in China, you weren't considered a year old until well, in some cultures not until you've been named, but certainly there you were already a year old when you were born. So you have to factor that number in. I have a whole spreadsheet that does these calculations because they're quite complicated, actually. And there's this concept that within your chart, you have these different elements, right? You have harmonic elements, destructive elements, clashing elements, punishment elements, harm code. A harm code it's sort of like a destruction code. Literally, what the destruction code means is that the positive elements within your chart have been destroyed. Whereas a harm code is like, no matter what happens, you feel it personally as a harm to you. So if your brother-in-law dies, harm to you, and how that translates through your spouse is almost a mystery. So, but then there's these protective forces that also combine together, and it's all considered a mathematical harmony. Now, this kind of thinking the Chinese came up with after the cataclysm that shifted and caused the inundating waters to come about. The role of the Wu was eliminated, that is the shaman, and replaced by the astrologer. Now, the astrologer's job was to keep the king alive, and the king could lose his head in the very oldest days in Mesopotamia and in China if there was an unpredicted disaster caused by an eclipse or a comet. So the astrologers would develop these very complex mathematical systems, even for the moon. And they would try and predict every single eclipse, lunar and solar, in the new system. And in the Chinese records, the emperor had sent out astrologers to recalculate the equinoxes and solstices so that the farmers would know when to plant. Now, if anybody knows anything about farmers, they know when they need to plant. They don't need any help on that. That's because of the change, because the planet had turned over in the time of what was it? Was that Job? Is it the book of Job? When the planet turned over?
Oh,
It was roughly like 4,400 years ago, something like that. And so the Chinese had gone out, recalculated all this stuff, come up with these complex mathematical arrangements, and then started noticing, of course, these resonances, these rotations of cycles. And they created an entire time-based astrology to replace the planet-based astrology, because they had 28 constellations. They had many more constellations than ours, and a lot of them had already changed. Of course, famously, both they and the Dogon noticed that there had been 2 stars at Sirius, and one went away. The second star at Sirius became the so-called hidden or secret magic star of the Taoists, which is still revered to this day in their magic square. So they have a magic square that is based on these 9 digits, and these 9 digits, the so-called magic square, they all add up to 15, no matter which way you look. Well, that includes a reference to that hidden star at Sirius. So the Chinese were tracking these complex mathematics to try and figure out what would happen on such and such a day, all around the idea that you could create your own luck. So you were born under a certain type of luck, and then you could affect your luck with positive feng shui and magical practices, staying in line. And the Taoists in particular believed in this concept of De. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Chinese character for De is actually, it looks like the ally motif, but when you go far enough back, it's actually the 2 spheres and then a phallic joining of energy between them, which clearly is a representation. And some of the graphs of the great man, the squatter man, contains that. And of course, there's that famous one there in the British Isles, the giant, and he has the phallus. And so this concept that masculinity was tied to the energy exchange, tied to these two gods, these two brothers, however you want to look at the two sumos that were fighting in the sky. Now that concept of power becomes tied to an energy in the chest. And a document was written about 2,800 years, 26 to 2,800 years ago, called the Neiya. It's older than the Tao Te Ching. The oldest copy we have of the Tao Te Ching is about 1,800 years old, but we think that it goes back at least 2,400 years, maybe 2,200. The Taoists, of course, say it goes back to, the time of Confucius, but there's no real proof of that. So, we do think that Lauer may have been a guy, like I say, 500, 400, 500 BC. But the concept of duh had pre-existed, and we have duh on the oracle bones, and this concept of this energy from the sky now is applied to the human ability. And then in the Neiya, it says specifically, if you have the duh in the chest, that you will be able to avoid heavenly disasters. Okay, you put the screen, but let me, what I'll do, I will share screen and I'll show you the character and some of the etymology there. Give me 1 second, it won't take me long. Share this. Okay. Tell me when you guys can see it. Can you see it yet? Hello? Oh, did we lose Andy? We lost Andy. Nick, are you there? Well, I'll keep looking it up while we everybody gets back here. Yeah, I think we've lost both of these guys. So I'll just go over it with the audience here. So here is the word duh, as in the Tao Te Ching. Of course, the famous or Tao Te Ching, as a lot of people see it. So there's the concept of Tao, and there's duh. And so here's the duh character, and in its ancient form, and we see that it's tied to the cosmic eye.
Oh, yeah.
It's tied to the which could be a reference to Jupiter. We see here there's also a giant thunderbird. We have here the Saturn star, and here at BO 2360. We have the star, and we have some thunderbolts coming down. This actually looks a lot like the character for Mask. But the connection, you could see the phallus throughout. Here we have even a vulva. So who knows? Maybe Venus was involved in this too. Well, it could be the interaction of Mars and Venus and the Mars-Venus clash in the 2600 BC. That rough era.
Yeah.
Now there was. I'm trying to remember how you get to it. There's a specific character, when you look it up, it actually has the two spheres exchanging plasma. Let's see here. Well, here you can see the squatter man here. We'll do both. So we'll look at the etymology for this one. No, this is just the three powers, and the thunderbolt. Let's look at this one. No, this isn't it. Right conduct, meaning ethics.
Okay, Ramon. I was looking for the wrong name, of course. It is the Schnell Effect.
Schnell Effect.
Yeah, SHNOLL.
Okay, let's pull that up. I can't recall if people can just imagine the two spheres and there's energy joining the two of them. Somehow that gets connected to all of this, what we would call mysticism, or the concept of that. If you control your energy, then you have the ability to control your fate, control your destiny, affect your luck. General relativity theory explains the Schnell effect. I'm sure it does. Oh my gosh.
It really doesn't. It really does not.
it really doesn't. The magical application of general relativity is entering certainly religious zealotry level.
Yeah. Like abracadabra.
Let's see here. We're not seeing a good. Let's see here. Simon Schnoll, yeah. Okay, full paper. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Is this him?
See the patterns video is very good on it. I'll leave a note. I'll leave a reference.
I'm thinking this must be it, though. The realization of discrete states during fluctuations, macroscopic processes. Russian Academy of Sciences, right?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. So here's the harmonics that you were talking about. Yeah, look that looks explained by general relativity. Oh my gosh. I mean, the nerve on these people to actually say something. Let's see here. General relativity theory explains the Schnell effect, makes possible forecasting earthquakes and weather cataclysms. This is complete nonsense. If I had the time to go through and discuss how now they've gone through, it looks like they've gone through and explained the Schnell effect quite well. But as for connecting it to general relativity, that is quite the step.
I don't think he ever does that, as far as I can see. As far as I could see from his work that I looked at, I didn't see any connection with general relativity.
Yeah, but I would go so far as to say none whatsoever.
Exactly.
But at any rate, so yeah, so I think that there is something interesting happening. And how this affects the MIMS is, as far as I can tell, is this. So there's a scene in one of the, I think it's one of the miniseries of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and they ask the advisor, the wise advisor in China, should I do this or should I do that? And he flips the coin and looks at it, and it's a yen, the tails, and he makes a suggestion based on that. When people want to step out and do something in their life, they often find that they come up against different psychological forces within them. It's easy to do the dualistic, so I'm going to do the actual the 5. The head, the heart, the spirit, the soul, and the gut. And when they don't have an alignment of those, they're often forced to make a difficult change, a choice. And that choice often involves a sacrifice of either an ideal or some time or some other potential choice as they choose that affects then their life in a quantum way, because they can never come back and revisit that situation. And the situations branch out, and they always are wondering what would have happened if X had happened instead. And they're forced to make this choice because they don't really have any foreknowledge. The system gives us no foreknowledge. But we do have some indications. And there is research that shows that our heart can make some kind of predictions. So one of my Tai Chi students who's moved to South Carolina, she once came in, money had come in the family because of a passing away. Brother wanted to start a business together. She wasn't so sure about it. So we did the I Ching. The I Ching gave her the answer that she needed to hear. And she didn't start the business with him. And she said he never brought it up again. Now, if she had gone forward and become entangled in that business situation with the brother, who knows what could have happened? There could have been all sorts of bad issues that had come about. Somehow she knew that it was a bad idea, but she was unwilling to fight the influence of his words psychologically. The rest of her knew. And I do believe that women have a little bit of extra, because of the extra nervous system down here, they have a strength of a woman's intuition. So some part of her knew all throughout her body. Her soul obviously already had the answer. That's what we're tapping into when we use the I Ching. And how did the Chinese know that you could use the I Ching and use these polarities to quote divine information about what's happening? I've used it to save my life many, many times. We don't know. Maybe it has to do with the Schnell Effect. I have no idea. But in terms of the MIMS philosophy, we would definitely be interested in how can we have our desires come into material reality. Material reality doesn't necessarily mean that I'm owning more stuff, but into actual fact of happening. How can we make our prayers come into happening, especially if we are going against some kind of greater force that is up against? Because not necessarily the idea is bad. From what I've experienced, I've seen a lot of people come up with really, really cool ideas, or they've intuited ideas, and if they had just waited,
yeah, it's just the timing was wrong. That's it.
3 months. What now?
Yeah, just the timing was wrong. That's it.
If they had just waited, a little bit of time, then maybe things would have turned out quite a bit different. Of course, without foreknowledge, how could they know that they had to do that? And also, there's the entire delayed instant gratification. It's very hard for people to make as they age. They really don't want to delay the instant gratification because you start to feel like there's not an infinite amount of time. There's some point that happens in the person's life, the so-called midlife crisis, where they no longer feel like I have as much time as I need in the future to accomplish whatever. And so they feel this impetus to push. And that impetus to push, from what we can tell, can cause a huge number of errors. Now, interestingly enough, only 5% of the changes of the 64 changes, only 3 of them are about retreating. And even in the one called retreat, it has rules for advancing while you retreat in order to keep the enemy from attacking you.
Yeah.
Okay. The majority of the changes, all like the other 61, they all have various lines associated with persistence. Some of them are telling you to stop in your persistence, and some of them to hold, and other ones are telling you to advance and to persevere. And if you persevere, you're able to break through. And there's a saying in China too that the efforts of man are 3 times the blessings of heaven. So when we go back to our MIMS philosophy, we wonder, is really the secret of Western society is that despite all of the amnesia and the cataclysms, all the destructions, is it the consistency to continuously push through despite these cycles? Or is it the benefit of Judeo-Christian values based on the concept of ether being heaven and the Lord or consciousness? we really don't know. It could be that we have in Western society studied the various big G powers just better than other societies. We don't really have any answers for it. And unfortunately, everybody's focused on the race thing, or they're focused on the language or something like that. I reckon, based on Zipf's law, it actually doesn't, the language thing, it'll affect it, but it's not necessarily the all important thing, because all of the languages have a ratio of consonants and vowels. And what do you call syllables. So the real issue is, how are we generating systems, engineering systems, to support any kind of movement that enhances moving with the Schnell effect, versus how are we not? And I reckon that probably when we're struggling and our cities are decaying and our education systems are failing, we're probably out of sync with the Schumann resonance and with the Schnell effect. And that might come, it may, we don't know, it may come down to when the person's born. There is certainly, what was it that Ben covered, the sunspot number. If you were born in a year with like a sunspot number over 100 or some arbitrary number, I can't remember what it was, that your average lifespan was down by 10 years. I'm one of those who's unfortunately born in such a year. And I do seem to live at a higher rate, a higher clip, which is funny. I was just listening to the song. I was listening to house music and was listening to Rhythm of the Night and Rhythm
You've
of My
only
Life.
got so many You've only got so many heartbeats. That's the thing, Ramon. 4 billion, and that's your.
That's what they say. And people have noticed, they're like, wow, you live really like kind of fast, hair went gray in my 20s, etc. And maybe there is something to that. I wouldn't go so far as what Claridge did, was to assign some consciousness to it or anything like that. Not yet, at least. However, we don't know if our sun and if Shamash and the planets were speaking a language, we wouldn't have the ability to decipher it right now. We'd have to figure out what the electromagnetic peaks and valleys, which ones were vowels and which ones were consonants, and then we could look at it if it's conforms to Zipf's law.
We've got to look at it in terms of music.
I don't think it does. What'd you say?
We've got to look at it in terms of music, I think, just to get some more intuitions, find out when of these dissonant waves happen. Oh yeah, Schnoll, they're assigning gravitational waves to the Schnell effect. This variability that we're seeing, gravity all over the Earth's surface.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the tendency of people to assign the superstitious answer to everything is ubiquitous. But at any rate, let the general relativists and do what they like with their fake ether of space-time. For me, what I'm interested in is this concept of designing our own MIMS to control our own destiny, right? I mean, the Chinese have this saying that you can become the peer with heaven if you have Dao De. So if you have De in your chest, which comes from doing the Qi work, which may be a charge issue. There's a lot of correlations in one of my papers. I cover how similar Qi and charge are. They're not 100%, but they have a lot more overlap than you'd think. That if you were to have that in the chest, then you can affect your destiny, because now you're in flow with Tao. And according to the Neiya, which is older than the Tao Te Ching, the heavenly disasters, the animals' claws, and people's weapons cannot find you when you have De. Now, personally, what I've felt is not necessarily that mystical protection per se, although on occasion I have felt divine protection. But what I have mostly noticed is that what Dao De enables you to do is control your position, your sure. And if you're able to control your sure, the universe seems to flow around you. So there's some sort of electromagnetic repulsive effect. You know, the crazy walking down the street, he doesn't latch onto you, he latches onto someone else.
Yeah.
And if that happens on such a micro scale, it could be happening for a person's entire life or a family's entire existence. You know, families do go through these things where it's like the whole family is being destroyed. I've even seen whole families have been what I would call reaped. I mean, it's just everybody dying. I had one patient. She had, I think it was like 7 men had died in a short period, all associated with this one farm. They own this land, and she was asking, could this land be cursed? And I was like, possibly. She had lost 3 or 4 brothers, and like you know, an uncle or 2, and her father. It's like only the men. So something interesting was happening, no matter what. How this affects the ability of the person to then go forward and feel like they're controlling their life, because we may not be in control at all. We haven't disproven that we're in a simulation yet. We have a strong indication that if it is a hologram, it has nothing to do with cosmic background radiation, because that's an oceanic signal. Other than that, we haven't disproven simulation theory. So is there some grand power controlling our lives? And humans, of course, don't like that. We want to feel like we're in control. We want to feel like we have actual free will to go out and accomplish everything that we need to. But all the religions also seem to indicate that there is a sort of a purpose of life, a dharma, a contract. The Chinese call it Ming, or even Xing Ming. Xing meaning nature and Ming meaning brightness, but really used as to mean destiny. So your Xing Ming is your contract to life, and that your first life is your first 60 years, and then you come up for contract renewal for your lease on life. We even say in our culture the lease on life for another 60 years, hopefully to make it to 120, and then you can become an immortal. That's the Chinese alchemy. That's how they believe. And so, how do we mediate this interaction with the universe? Because of course, nobody feels that any adult should be dying at age 40, age 50, and not even in the old days they didn't feel that. And so, let alone in a day when the average age is like 77 for females. So these are questions nobody's answered yet, and I don't know if the Schnell effect is going to be the only answer, the only part of it. But I do know that if we're going to design MIMS to increase and enhance life, I reckon it's going to take a lot of interaction of all of this information. I don't know how to put it together yet. That's why I'm not writing the permaculture and feng shui paper, because I honestly am not sure. I may have to do a lot more MIMS philosophy work before I'm even ready for that. But it is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to actually manifest in terms of hooking different data layers of AI systems together. So
yeah,
then
the AI figures out the MIMS and just creates a program that eliminates humans. And it doesn't do it through nuclear war. You know, that's our paranoia.
I don't see it at all like that. You know, I don't see that. I don't see these sort of intelligences going off and doing crazy things. I mean, if you see it as just basically a body of statistics that are summarized using neural pathways, neural networks, and so you saw the data is the obviously is the network, and you can hook these different filters on different parts, and you can join data from various sets, and analyze data from many different sets, with kind of live data. You know, there's no arguing with it. If it's an open and transparent system, you know, people can play with it how they want, can't they? You know, to find correspondences and, you know, useful ways of manipulating data. But as far as I can say, if there's more sort of if there are times when certain processes seem to work better than other times, let's identify those times and right on the nail. Is that the best time to produce this particular chemical? Well, let's have a look at our chart. No, it isn't. This is the best time. When next time we get the old trigon with Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune, maybe. You know what I'm saying. And it,
yeah,
when the energetic, let's say, conditions are right, do the experiment and it'll go 5 times smoother than if you do it when you're in a dissonant phase.
that's what I think, and it's interesting. It's very meta, but we have to have a hypothesis about the hypothesis. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And mankind has been stuck. You know what I told that commenter was her name's Shannon. I said that really mankind has not spent much time thinking about money. There's been very few people, and there's certain families that have spent a lot of time, but most people have, because of religion, decided that money is a bad thing, and so totally avoided the entire discussion as far as, you know, the production money. But money is just a MEMS, right? It's a store of energy value, and it has a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. All the negatives, the vast majority of them associated with money, actually have to do with our psychology and problems of either, you could say, original sin or familial sin, whatever you want to talk about. But it's greed. It just comes down to greed and the way that people treat each other, and the fact that they love money more than they love people. And that the money itself, of course, is no problem at all. It just sits there. But there's rules to it and how it works. Well, the same thing is going to happen with all of the discussion of fortune, all of the discussion of luck and how to accomplish this or accomplish
That's
that.
right.
And we don't seem to have we don't even have a strong multi-billion-dollar project associated with just studying the changes themselves. And so here we have to have a hypothesis about the hypothesis. And the hypothesis is that if we do not, it's what you just said, if we do not understand the resonance and dissonance phases, then the changes are always going to befuddle our ability to accomplish certain things, whether or not those things are meaningful and good. Imagine if the development of the Manhattan Project had not happened during a resonant phase, as far as resonant for war. It may not have ever been accomplished, or at least not for a while. And then imagine what kind of positive things could be accomplished that don't get accomplished because we are busy resonating with war during a time when we should be resonating with growth or self-development or whatever.
Absolutely.
And then you start to feel like, well, maybe the times like between the 1950s and 1990s are actually super rare in human history. Yeah, and probably somebody like Terence McKenna, that kind of a mind, should probably make a study of that and say,
unfortunately he's gone now, Terence. But there was certainly my life's been a period of sort of Pax Americana, I would say, in general.
And but it's also the Tang Dynasty is a classic example. The Han Dynasty is another example. Ashoka the Great in India.
Pax Romana.
The Romans.
200 years of peace.
What'd you say? 200
years of just about peace. Well, Roman style peace.
No, not everywhere probably, but maybe this stuff moves around. I mean, we have these magnetic tunnels that connect. Maybe they move around the earth. I mean, we don't know anything. I can tell you this. I can feel it when I leave Lexington on those days of high compression. You go 40 miles out and you feel a lot better. Now, why does that happen? And then why does it happen that there are days when I things are perfect here, and then when I go 40 miles out, it's like, oh, you better go home. How is that happening? How is it that I'm hiking on days and things are coming into positivity on those days of going on the hike? It's all very strange, and for people to pretend that there's nothing strange going on, I think is not going to be an answer either.
Well, some people aren't aware of any fluctuations. That's the problem.
Oh, well, that is, you know what? That is actually a thing in Taoism that they talk about. They talk about oblivion and distraction. Distraction keeps them from noticing things, and oblivion, when they try to study the thing, it causes a kind of a fog to come over them, and they want to fall asleep. And or they cannot actually focus on the subject, and that it is one of the biggest. It's the so-called one of the biggest two enemies to achieving the alchemy, according to the Taoists. So it could very well be that a lot of these Pentagon planners or Chinese Central Economy planners, that they don't actually know. They don't have a personal experience. They're going through the motions. Their life is being affected by the changes. You know, a week ago they felt amazing. Now they feel terrible, but they're not connecting the two. And so the decisions they're making now are all based in anger and hatred.
And fear.
Whereas before it was, they had some kind of positivity. Maybe they would have been willing to make a peace deal the previous week or previous month. And now everything's all war and hawkishness. And we don't seem to have any emphasis in our society on that kind of wisdom, like at all. We don't have any understanding that the bully in school, he might be being a bully because of some effect of the full moon or whatever. And so now we're going to treat him. And then it seems to me possible that on occasion that bully is then stigmatized in a particular period of when everybody is needing to find a scapegoat and something to beat up. And then that bully becomes the exegesis for that release. And then he is imprinted with that information, and he enters into a justice system that then treats him as if he is a de facto monster, and he's not yet. Yeah. And then he ends up on that road that heads in that direction. And I reckon that does happen. And I also reckon that there are innocent people that get sucked into a vortex just like that. And not all of them have a positional science to escape. And so they end up on that road too. Oh, and there's an entire story in the Chinese called the Outlaws of the Marsh. And that's exactly what happens. The main hero of the 108 Outlaws, he's actually a really good guy, but he gets totally framed. And then they frame him, and then they burn the mark on his cheek, and now he's a criminal. And so then he ends up, running off and escaping into the wilds, and then they make him leader because they all know that we're all criminals and you're not. Now it's interesting, the way that story starts is that somebody opens a jar and it releases 108 spirits. And the 108 spirits then go up to the stars, and then the stars fall down to the ground and become born. And then they raise up this little army. It's a fascinating cosmology, the way that they see things. Of course, it's a fictional narrative, but everybody has experience of these kinds of situations where out of nowhere, it seems like you are the locus of evil. They call that the evil eye. And how does exactly that work? I know that at the previous house that I just sold, my psychic friend, she had told me that the house had an issue of a barrier between us and the neighbor. And so we were working on that, and I was working on defining the boundaries with the neighbor, et cetera. And then one day I felt kind of a really strange energy. That night, their house was broken into. And as I would, the next day, I was walking between the houses. I could feel the evil eye upon me when I was there. When I then would go over to the left in the house, I no longer felt it. So there was some energy wave that was focused on them. And was
there anyone there, Ramon? Was there anyone in the vicinity?
The guy who broke in, first of all, he's blind. He's legally blind, and he broke into the bottom floor and then rummaged around and stole some Xbox games, and then he dumped them behind the house and everything. No one knew that he was there. So if he had been a serial killer, he could have murdered the whole family. No one would have known. The dogs didn't even wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Stupid dogs.
So it was, I mean, it's, 3-4 story house. So, I mean, it's totally feasible for that to happen. But it was a strange, I remember thinking, this is a really strange feeling that I'm having as I walk between these houses, and it's not even affecting me directly. And I think that tends to happen a lot, that people are carrying around. I would love to be the guy who invented the software that you could hold up the phone, you could look, and the person's either red or green or blue. You could tell what kind of mood they're in, and then you could even see a storm cloud, and you're like, oh, okay, And then for the ones who are really struggling, and you could see the little thing kicking them in the butt as they're going. I reckon that data must be around us or within us on a quantum level, and we just don't have the techniques to divine it.
I'm sure it is. These polygraph tests rely upon surface, your skin conductivity levels, don't they? So that when people lie, they can detect the change in the electrical tension on the body, so it's probably a matter of if you've got some, an infrared attachment to your camera. You might be able to detect the variations and then correlate those with people's facial expressions when they're speaking as well, and of course the content of their discussion, and you can then start assessing body language and things like that, can't you? And all these correlate to give yourself an opinion on the person's sort of validity, really, in my opinion. And I'm sure that technology is only just around the corner. I'm sure it is.
Well, it may be that they already have it, but then they use it for themselves, and it could keep the certain families in power or certain government entities in power. Who knows? Who knows what the Shadowgate software is going to evolve into? Right now, it's a political punishment tool, but we don't know what it's going to become in the future.
Well, no. I mean, all it is it's going to be used as let's look into the magic crystal, our AI says this, therefore it must be true. It's going to be used as a magic crystal. It won't be. It is actually simply a network of data, obviously, and how that's manipulated. We simply view that now as something different than we did 10 years ago because of the way we're arranging that data into neural networks.
Right.
That it's
and it may be a
still
good
got
thing,
the data.
it may be a bad thing. It remains to be seen. With what we do with it. We tend to assign very negative views on these things. I think I'm probably not being too harsh to say that Robert's kind of this way. He's kind of down on what humans are doing with science and what they're doing to science, etc. But I reckon that what happens is we have a lot of weapons development, and we do a lot of negative things first. Kind of like a kid who's just discovered, the existence of alcohol, and they overdo it, right? And then, the average number of people, most of us mature and learn how to, control things with, a middle level, right? Because you can answer, yeah. But that's what my spacers paper is my Conquering the Solar Systems paper is about, is that we need room to practice these things without destroying each other on the only planet that we have currently to exist, and right now we're just right on top of each other. And so if we can get out in space and we can terraform Mars and we can terraform Venus and we could practice some of this stuff, I reckon it's going to be better for us psychologically. It's going to give us the feeling of mojo again that we had when we were, either A, exploring the world, or B, exploring the beginnings of the space exploration. I think a lot of our misbehaviors from you mentioned Napoleon, from the Napoleonic era to the World War I and II, a lot have to do with we don't want to give up, and we know imperialism doesn't work. We don't want to give it up. China feels like they're owed for some reason, like they didn't have enough imperialism, and they started imperialism before everybody but Egypt. So I don't know what that's about, but they certainly want to go through the whole colonial experience, like the rest of the West, probably because they feel like, well, if we have this great culture and you know we're so highly intelligent because they have a higher average IQ than white Europe, then why haven't we succeeded in these various conditions? And sort of a bad way of actually approaching things, but these war hawks are these war hawks. That's just the way they think, right? They've been reading too much Art of War, and they don't have a MEMS philosophy, right? It's sort of you need a philosophy that is able to observe something like operations research, which operations research science that contains data science, and so you're already 2 or 3 systems removed, and you have also the nonlinear dynamics, and you have fractal mathematics, and concepts of phi and golden ratio, all these kinds of things that are just so well removed from the experience of a guy who went to a military academy. And so then there's the acronomics, and you have the incentive to take over Taiwan, and to control the chip market, et cetera. So we have these things that are in our way. But I reckon long term, when we get past that, then we will have enough playground to play in. The amount of percentage increase to create the Birkeland polyphase superweb for our satellite network is so many millions of percent just in area. I mean, the volume increase that will be necessary is just huge. The number of contracts that can be done. Yeah, everybody can go outside. We're going to be going soon. The number of contracts that can be had is just absolutely massive. And there's no need for anybody to sit there and worry about, is there enough material? Is there enough room? There are certain atoms that we are going to need to manufacture. And there will be a shortage at various times. It would probably be a bad idea to run out of helium before we start actually fusing more. But it'll all get done at the time that is it'll get done in time no matter what. The question is, can we improve the rate? And I think if we pay attention to things like the Schnell Effect, that we stand a better chance. We're still going to encounter impedance in the circuit. In the economic circuit, we're going to encounter impedance. In the spiritual circuit, we're going to encounter impedance. In the psychological circuit, we're certainly experiencing that. I don't know if we're going to burst through it or not.
If we can get into a position where we can measure these, these impedances in all these circuits, and correlate them, then I think we'll be able to start to. It's like this awareness, once we're aware of a correlation, we can track it and find out the nature of it.
On that note, the starter grower, the next phase of the starter grower project is going to include a project power curve for businesses or any project. So a person could theoretically not do the resilience score. They don't have a business. They just have projects. And they can log in with their account, and it will calculate the power curve, not based on the physics concept of power curve, but on the business concept of power curve. So that and they'll be able to use a slider bar to indicate how much resistance they feel in the situation. Of course, long term, like you said, it'll be machine learning. By the end of the phase 3 of stage 1, we must have the AI daisy chain created. If we don't have the full AI daisy chain and the factory automations that I've outlined in the paper created, I don't see how we could get to stage 2. Honestly, I mean, we could certainly go visit Mars and go, wow, this is a great looking place. We better get out of here before we get hit by a radiation spike, But I don't see how we could actually terraform it. So we'll have to create it by then. But until then, we ourselves can feel, and I can slide the bar. I feel more resistance in this project or less resistance in this project. And of course, You can input the cost, the currency, and then the tension can be calculated from these two things, and from that you can get the power. And you know, and of course the time, the time that we imagine, because we can't read the future. I imagine it may take me 3 weeks to accomplish this. You know, that getting this solar system paper is a good example. I had to change it from October to November, and here we are actually towards the end of November. I'm wondering if Macon's going to be capable of getting all of the citations, and it may be turned into a December. So that paper could have gone from 2 weeks, which I was certainly overestimating my ability, to now 3 months turnaround period. And in which case, you know, we have to assume that the space movement is going to be like that. On that note, you know, I want to encourage people to go back and review the Big G papers and take a look at all of that. I am finishing up this gravitation page. I'm sure more needs to get added to this gravitation page, but I am going to go ahead and hit the publish button and take kids out, and we're going to go, I think we're going to go do a Chinese buffet.
Excellent.
Yeah. This is a pretty good talk. We were a little bit slow in the beginning, but that's okay. I was kind of doing this and that, you know. It's some good subjects. I'll definitely upload it. Thank you for sharing that paper.
No, that's great. There's it's something I can really get my teeth into now, to be honest. You know, I really sort of a project on a number of levels, because, like I say, I can get, you know, if we can get hold of this live data, etc., and start correlating the, you know, well, off a lot of past data. Again, you use that system outlined by Scarfega, which is a sort of semi-empirical prediction machine, and it should yield results in many areas, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, Lord knows we need it, because the number of people who are becoming anti-rationalists seems to be accelerating every day. I don't know. There's a good immune response happening right now too. I mean, the Kyle Rittenhouse thing shows that most people understand that he was always innocent, and that, you know. But some of these people are completely nuts. I mean, they don't even bother with the most cursory examination, and they make horrifying statements about, you know, well, you know, maybe the you know, Christmas parade attacker was, you know, exercising his right to self-defense. I mean, these people are losing their minds.
Well, that's idiotic. Yeah, idiotic.
Yeah, it's an incredibly horrifying thing to say. And so I reckon that there is a strong immune response battle happening right now. I personally would like to engineer whimsical solutions like the space movement, like crypto. I would like to advance those things to, and of course, Aaron and I are in a race to stop Zuckerberg. He's got a massive head start, because the data mining and Facebook just has a massive head start with this metaverse, stealing children, importantly, stealing children's minds and making them into zombies.
Yeah.
But we want to engineer a improved Web 4.0. We figure that Web 3.0, we got to engineer our way to taking back control, because they're already starting the Web 3.0 thing. And it's funny that he and I was just typing that paper and talking about it, and then suddenly Metaverse was announced. So we're not the only ones thinking about the Web 3.0, and it is going to be quite the battle, you know, to win the World War 3.0. And to avoid a World War III, we have to win World War 3.0. If we lose World War 3.0, then probably World War III will happen, because the United States government has protocols in place, just like Russia does, to tactically strike back. So there is a need, and I certainly hope that people will consider volunteering and becoming part of this motion towards engineering a brighter future. But it is a shame to see so many anti-rationalists roaming about, causing all sorts of strife, or participating in the strife. Because I reckon it would be far better if we could avoid, you know, the natural killer cells coming out. And I'm friends with
most people have no other form of expression, though, and also it's a pack sort of a pack mentality breaks out.
And I don't. I don't think that the people who are acting as a social cancer realize that the natural killer cells, they're licking their lips. I know some of these people, by the way, and they are they're much more intense than me. I mean, they're ready to cleanse the bloodstream now. And so my goal is to try and help people to remember to love thy neighbor and to increase the amount of dialogue and communication. It's not so easy right now. As you know, the polls have been like shifted far apart, and you know, some people are like, "Well, the aliens are doing it, or the media is doing it." Some people are like, "The Jews are doing it." I don't get into that. I don't know what it is, but the polls being shifted apart like that, to me, it indicates the need to create more, to engineer more MIMs that create unity and bring things together. The American Dream was an interesting emergent MIMS. I'm not sure it was particularly designed so much as it was a fallout of the Manifest Destiny concept. But I know this: if we don't do something, and if we don't stick to data, and we don't stick to the physics and the physics, the numbers, and the force,
and observations,
I think that the ether will be removed from us, and that's my personal faith coming in. I don't have any particular data that proves that. The sun is obviously still going to be there, but who knows? I mean, we don't know how that works. Maybe the sun just gets turned off for a month until we all are gone. We don't know how that works. We have no idea.
Well, I think the sun's a much more complex structure than that, and I think it's got a life force. I think maybe when we do find the resonant, when we do really properly analyze the resonant nature of the system, of the solar system, we've somehow got to compare it with what happens inside a cell, inside of a biological cell.
That a great topic. We're starting to come up with a lot of potential topics for the show. I forget what the other one was that we were talking about in the chat the last night or 2 days ago, but that would be a really good one. We should definitely do a deep dive into the concept of the fractal cell. But let's end this now, because I got to go feed these kids. So
okay, yeah, nice one, Ramon. I'll speak soon.